Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So here is a comparison video that nobody asked for, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. So right up front, let's get the most obvious tidbits out of the way. This is an unfair comparison video for a few obvious reasons. Number one, well, one's an SUV, one's a truck, of course. One is no longer offered to the North American market within the US here, and one of them cost substantially more than the other. So starting out, it is a unfair advantage that the Land Cruiser has in a few regards, but both of these vehicles are outstanding in their own right. Both of them are very different too, right? One of them is the old guy on the block, tried and true, battle tested, whereas the other one is super cutting edge and propelled into the 21st century. So I'm going to talk through the highlights of each of these vehicles here. Maybe there's a few of you out there who are actually interested, or perhaps even cross-shopping for a used Land Cruiser or the new Tundra. So I'm going to talk through the differences and comparisons in this video. So let's start off with the power plant. So you guys know, part of the reason why Toyota's transitioning over to the smaller displacement engines with the turbocharged variants is because of emission standards. So they have consistently been restricting and tightening those over the years. So the Land Cruiser has the old archaic 5.7 liter V8, the big thirsty V8, the one that the old Tundra actually had, right? So it, on a good day, it'll get you maybe 15 miles to the gallon, maybe 16, 17 sometimes, right? But it is a very thirsty engine, and that is largely why they're trying to distance themselves from that and go with the 3.5 liter twin turbo hybrid variant, right? Hopefully working toward 19 and 22 miles per gallon, which is what you'd get in this Tundra here. So that is a very notable difference right from the beginning. This does have that 8-speed automatic transmission, which is buttery smooth, and that is a huge step up, I think, from the previous Tundra's 6-speed automatic transmission that it had, and that was still really good. But you don't realize how good it is or bad it is until you get into the Land Cruiser here. It really is the smoothest vehicle that I've ever driven. This does have the upgraded electronically controlled 10-speed automatic transmission. So again, this is very smooth too. No complaints with the transmission whatsoever. Very quick shifts. Again, no issues whatsoever. It's not sluggish by any means, in my opinion. One of these is built in Japan. We all know that at this point. This was and it still is. I mean, you guys know the LC300, the 300 series is still being built and offered around the world, just not in the US, right? So we know that. So it's still being built out of Japan, the Land Cruiser. And this, I think, really demonstrates just how, I don't know, you can see the quality control within this vehicle. It is extremely sturdy, and the technicians out of Toyota, they really go into building this Land Cruiser. This is their flagship SUV, and they have a lot of pride in it. They go into it building it with the expectation of it lasting 25 years with minimal maintenance. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about the Tundra here, right? Obviously, they're built to last, but they don't have that mindset of, hey, this is going to be good for 25 years with minimal maintenance, with no serious issue, as they did with the Land Cruiser there. So this one is built in Texas. I think we all know that at this point. They even moved the Toyota Tacoma over to Mexico fully to try to make room for this and the Sequoia out of Texas, for those of you who did not know that. 381 horsepower in the Land Cruiser here and 401 foot-pounds of torque versus 437 horsepower and 583 torque. You definitely feel that torque in this Tundra here. It is extremely peppy, especially when you put it into sport mode. The throttle response, it really is exhilarating to drive. And I think, although I kind of poke fun at it a little bit, I would be lying if I said the more I drive this, the more I truly enjoy it. So I think that is important to note. The more you drive this Tundra, the more it grows on you. And I actually remember feeling that way with the previous Tundra. If you guys remember, I actually traded in my 2019 Ford Raptor for that previous Tundra, and I remember on the drive home, I truly did have a moment of regret. So as I was driving that Army Green 2020 Tundra TRD Pro home, I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? because I was used to driving that 2019 Ford Raptor, which is very, very similar feeling to this Tundra here. You know, it's very peppy, light on its feet, extremely nimble. But and getting into that Tundra, it just felt like a tank. It felt like a sluggish dog by comparison with acceleration. It felt heavy, extremely heavy, if I'm being honest, compared to the Raptor. I had a moment of regret for sure as I was driving home. So it grew on me over time. The overall experience, the raw, visceral driving experience of that previous Tundra grew on me. So I say all that on purpose because I think that could very well be the case with this new Tundra. Although right now I have no plans to buy this new Tundra, no plans whatsoever. You guys know me, right? This could very well be in my driveway in like a couple months, but no plans because I don't know, to me it's just missing something. A few intangibles that the previous Tundra had as well as the Land Cruiser here. So I digress. Let's talk a couple more specs and then we'll kind of dissect a little bit more, okay? So towing capacity is amazing on this Tundra, right? So it's over 11,000. I think it's 11,200, just under that is what it can tow. And the old 5.7 liter V8 tows right around 8,000 pounds, 8,100 if I recall, for the Land Cruiser here, as well as the previous Tundra, of course, with the same power plant. Maybe it's even a little bit more, maybe closer to 9,000 with the Tundra, I forget, with it being the truck. The suspension difference is very, very important to note. We had the KDSS, which is the kinetic dynamic suspension system within the Land Cruiser here. An amazing system, a very complex system, truly. You know, as you know, you're dipping one of your front wheels into a giant pit or a hole, whatever, it will disconnect the sway bar and then reconnect once you kind of get to a better position, which is really, really fascinating. Whereas this, it is equally cool, but for a different purpose, I would argue. So this is the 2.5 inch Fox TRD tuned suspension on this Tundra here, which is phenomenal. But I would argue a little bit better for, you know, higher speed off-roading. If you're going to be trail riding, going down maybe moguls, whatever, hitting bumps at a fairly good clip, I think is what this suspension will be better in. Similar to like the Baja design of the Raptors, right? What else? So miles per gallon, we already talked to that. We're really averaging right around 15 miles per gallon with the Land Cruiser here, whereas we're getting 19 to 22 on average here in the Tundra. We already talked to the price point. Really, at face value, let's not avoid the elephant in the room. There is a reason why Toyota stopped offering this in the United States, North American market. I mean, they sold plenty around the world, of course, and to meet their sales figures and quotas and all that, but they just weren't selling. People were not buying these in the United States. I think on average, I think for the last 10 years, they were selling anywhere from like 2,500 to 4,500 each year, which is very, very, very low numbers comparatively to like the Tundra and the 4Runner, the Highlander, of course, Sequoia even though Sequoia was kind of small too. But the Land Cruiser was by far the worst out of sales figures. So they didn't need to. And there's a reason behind that, right? So you get this huge price tag on this rather bland looking SUV with the extremely, extremely simplistic and maybe seemingly cheap to a lot of people given how dated the tech was, right? So let's be fair in this video here. Although this is my Land Cruiser and you guys know I love it, but I love it for the reasons why a lot of people did not like it. You know, exact contrary to why I like this thing is why a lot of people hated it, to be honest, right? So for that reason, although I'm kind of dogging the Tundra here, it is absolutely going to be cherished by a lot of Americans, right? Because it has all the things that we've been longing for. A lot of Americans have been longing for with the previous generation Tundra. It has that updated tech. It has all the safety features. It has the cool redesign to it with the, you know, stylish, sleek front end, the maybe borderline gaudy bumper grill here. But you got sleek body lines to it too with the awesome digital carbon fiber. Again, this is kind of catering to, you know, the folks in their 30s, right? You get the red interior on this one. You guys seen that? So I think this will be a hit in the United States, as it should be, because yeah, it really did. I mean, it brought it into the 21st century. That last Tundra was long in the tooth, and unless you had one and you've driven it and had, you know, a number of years under your belt with it, it was hard for people to be a first-time buyer with that Tundra when there's F-150s on the market that were extremely modernized, right? Even, you know, GM products out there looking fantastic, the Silverado. It was hard for people to pull the trigger on it unless you've already had one for years, perhaps when they first came out, like 07, 08 timeframe. You get my point, right? So looking through my notes here, both of them I think have amazing looking wheels. They're both forged BBSs, we know that. These are actually the same exact BBSs that were on the previous Tundra TRD Pro. They were just black, of course. We're gonna get the bronze ones on the Heritage Edition here. I would argue that these do look better. Maybe I am showing my age here a little bit, being closer to this demographic for the Tundra, but I think these look better. Not by much, but I do prefer them. So on that note, I mean, you saw there, the Tundra does come with Falcons now, Falcon Wild Peaks, whereas this originally came with some Dunlops, I think 1823s, I forget if they were 83s or 1823s. Pretty highway focused tires, seemingly, right? That's why I put on the KO2s. Just kind of looks the part now. You guys tell me if you agree. So although both have their fair share of cheap materials, the Land Cruiser does feel a bit more sturdy, I would argue. The doors by themselves are so much heavier than the Tundra here. Yeah, as you open up the door on the Land Cruiser, you can just feel the heft to it. Whereas when you open up the door over here, you know, like I mentioned in my previous video, it is kind of flimsy. It is kind of lightweight, which that can be good or bad, right? Up on the dash, right, you get some hard plastics in both of them, but overall, you feel the heft to the Land Cruiser over the Tundra here, and partly that's by design, right? So this is nimble, lightweight. You know, you got that lighter weight engine up front too. Granted, you have a heavy battery pack underneath the passenger seat. It is still designed to be a little bit more nimble, and it delivers on that for sure. So I guess on that note here, one other note I had is this is absolutely a much more thrilling experience. Yeah, I've been driving this every day for the last few days, and I almost can't help myself but to not, you know, get on the throttle. Every time I get on the freeway or whatever, I'm like doing full throttle, because it really is so much fun to drive. So don't take my word for it too. Go test drive one and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They are so snappy, very similar to the Raptor in that regard. So it is enjoyable to drive. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. This is fun to drive, but it's not a thrill. This is more of a luxury, smooth sailing vehicle. Whereas this is go out there and it's a kick in the pants every time you drive it. I already talked through one of them being no longer offered in the US. I kind of skipped the rest of my notes here. All of it really just boils down to preference. I'll show you the insides of each of them real quick. It all boils down to preference in here. So granted, you can get black. Right, let's make that clear for the folks who are kind of stopped by my channel for the first time. You can get black interior here. It still has the camo, which I like personally, but I can see why maybe people wouldn't like that either. But I think if this were black on black, or perhaps even Lunar Rock with the black interior, I think it would look outstanding. You have a full digital gauge cluster now, whereas in years past, it was always an analog traditional gauge cluster, which again, maybe I'm kind of old-spirited, but I appreciate the old analog. One less thing to break or get wonky on you, or glitchy rather, right? And then you get the giant 14-inch infotainment over here, which I love it. It's super responsive, miles ahead of that Land Cruiser over there, and I'll hop in that one too, with a ton of easy to use, easy to read, just very user-friendly buttons, switches, knobs over here for you to leverage without distracting you too much while you're driving. Good, easy climate control, volume control, all that jazz. I think the gear selection lever here is a huge improvement over the last one. I mean, if you were to get into that previous Tundra for the first time and look around, you'd be extremely disappointed, especially if you were shopping right around 2017, 2018. You're shopping, that like an F-150 or shop in Silverado. If you were to get into them back to back, and you don't know too much about vehicles, you would absolutely get the F-150 every single time. If you're getting into that Tundra, you'd be like, no thank you. This cost how much? I'll show you the back seat too. Don't mind the mess, guys. So yeah, we have been testing this. Running 3 deep back here with the kiddos. Plenty of space up there in the passenger seat. You can see they're pulled back super far. I'm 5'9". That's kind of my comfortable seating position there with plenty of space still. I like the red seat belts. So even with the black interior with the red seat belts, I think that would look really cool. But we should have had a black headliner for sure. So definitely a boxy look, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. You can just tell looking at the different angles, it is squared off at the top here. The entire cab is just hard lines, I think. So that's pretty cool though. I'm gonna fire it up real quick too, and then I'll show you the Land Cruiser. Here's your sweet little JDM looking TRD push to start. Nice display there. Flexing the iForce Max 3.5 liter twin turbo engine. Turn the fan down a little bit. But yeah, Apple CarPlay in here, very responsive. The entire thing is just awesome. So huge fan of that entire system there. This, like I said, I could do without, and had I not owned the Ford Raptor before, the Gen 3 Raptor, also with the fully digital display, I would absolutely love this. But I experienced one a little bit better, a little bit more responsive than this one. So there you have it, guys. Just a quick look in here. I'm a fan of this bit right here, that classic heritage Toyota script across the passenger dash, and a giant pano sunroof. Again, this is all stuff that really just brought it into the 21st century at this point, guys. By the way, I said I'd show you in my previous video, but here is the Trd Light Bar Switch. I wonder if we need to have lights fully on. I think we're on. There's nothing indicating it's on. Let's go look. And nothing. Like the marker lights up front, kind of looking like a Raptor now. We'll hop into old Cruiser with the Gecko. Okay. Alrighty. So here we are with the old classic gauges here, which I prefer. The wood I could do without, but it's a Land Cruiser thing. Here's that very, very dated infotainment here. I do like the materials so much better in the Land Cruiser though. This is all a metal finish here, which is nice. It's refreshing. Even within here, you have a little wireless charging tray underneath here. So super dated, nothing to write home to mom about, but it is a comfortable place to be for sure. Don't mind the mess, yikes. And then yeah, 3 seats back there as well. A little bit more cramped for sure, but a ton of cargo space in the back, as you guys know. So I'll fire it up. The visibility is better in the Land Cruiser by a long shot, I would say, just because you have so much more windshield space seemingly, and of course you're just like in a fishbowl all around in here. So I'm a huge fan of this. So we'll do a push to start. Turn down my Spice Girls CD. Okay. So yeah, it's this is a little bit more involved. You actually got to hit the climate button over here to actually get into this, and you have to manually touch the screen to kind of adjust the fan speed, the angles of what you want the wind blowing, all that stuff, AC blowing. So a little bit more involved. I'll shut the door. But overall, I think, I mean, black headliner, kind of like a suede material headliner. This is what I mean by just like, you feel the heft a lot more, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a little bit more attention to detail when it came to the finishes itself, whereas that, it does feel a little bit more puzzled together, pieced together, whereas this, you can tell it feels like there's a little bit of pride involved in the build of it. Not to say there's not in the Toyota, don't get me wrong, or the Tundra there. Alright guys, well, I went and did it. Went and did another 20-minute video for you guys. Sorry, but wanted to walk through that. I think this Tundra here is going to be wildly successful in the United States. I think it has, if you've never driven the previous generation Tundra, you're going to love it. You're going to absolutely love it. It's thrilling. Sure, it has synthetic exhaust notes coming through the speakers, which is a bummer, but to 9 out of 10 people, you're not going to know the difference. You get in there and it just sounds wonderful. I mean, heck, I think even the F80 M3 does it, right? BMW will do it when they distance themselves from the E92 V8 M3. So even the best of the best sports cars do that, right? It's just kind of adds to the overall driving experience at the end of the day. And so I applaud Toyota for making that effort with this Tundra. I think there's a ton to love, and I think you guys are going to love it too. So let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your thoughts are between the two here. I know it's kind of an unfair comparison to some degree, but I appreciate you guys watching. If you stuck it out to 21.5 minutes, hats off to you. Appreciate the support, guys. Until next time.